The golden afternoon light spills across 50 acres of carefully maintained pasture that has been in my family for 3 generations. Ferdinand, my prize-winning Spanish fighting bull, grazes peacefully beneath the oak trees that mark the eastern boundary of our property. His coat gleams black in the sunlight, a testament to the meticulous care I provide. My grandfather purchased this bull bloodline when he established our farm in 1953, long before suburban developments began encroaching on what was once entirely rural countryside. I stand at my kitchen window, coffee mug in hand, watching yet another white HOA patrol vehicle slowly cruise past my property. The driver leans forward, clipboard propped against the steering wheel, making exaggerated notes about something on my fence line. This is the third inspection this week, compared to the monthly drive-by they give most properties in Oak Ridge estates. The warning signs that line my property are impossible to miss. Bright red lettering on yellow backgrounds, each one clearly stating "Danger Aggressive Bull," with a silhouette image that catches the eye even from a distance. These signs have stood for 15 years without incident, long before the development and its association existed. Ferdinand is generally docile with me, but territorial with strangers, especially those in vehicles. His previous encounters with trespassers have earned him a reputation, hence the precautionary signage. My phone buzzes on the counter, another email from the Homeowners Association. The subject line reads urgent, noncompliance notice 37. I open it with a sigh. The message details how my excessive signage violates aesthetic guidelines and demands removal within 72 hours or face increasing daily fines. No mention of the safety purpose these signs serve, of course. Last week, I sent registered letters to every HOA board member explaining the danger of their patrol routes cutting through my back pasture. I included photographs of Ferdinand, his size evident next to my 6-foot frame, and documentation of his territorial behavior. Their response was a form letter stating that HOA vehicles have full access rights to all common areas and easements. Through my window, I observed the patrol car slow down near my southern gate, the one leading directly into Ferdinand's favorite pasture. The driver, a young man I recognize as Karen's nephew recently hired for the position, deliberately turns onto the dirt access road and proceeds past not one, not two, but 3 warning signs. I rush to my front porch and wave frantically to get his attention. He sees me, I am certain of it. He makes direct eye contact, then pointedly looks away and continues driving slowly into the field where Ferdinand has noticed the intrusion and raised his head in alert posture. The vehicle stops approximately 50 yards into my property. The driver exits, camera in hand, and begins photographing my fence. He is standing in the precise area I have warned them repeatedly about. Ferdinand, still distant but aware, begins pawing the ground. "You need to leave immediately," I shout, pointing urgently toward Ferdinand, whose posture has changed from curiosity to territorial display. "The bull is agitated by vehicles. Please exit the same way you came in slowly." The driver cups his hand to his ear, pretending he cannot hear me, though the distance is not so great. He smirks, takes another deliberate photograph of my warning sign, then calls out, "Just documenting your continuing violations, Mr. Johnson." That evening, I send my final warning, an email with video attachments showing Ferdinand's behavior patterns and clear timestamps of today's incident. I copy the HOA board, the property management company, and my personal attorney. The response comes within the hour, not addressing the safety concerns, but instead informing me that my aggressive communication has been noted and my threatening behavior will be discussed at the next board meeting. As I close my laptop, a realization settles heavily in my stomach. The HOA is not ignoring my warnings through oversight or incompetence. They are doing it deliberately. Their patrol routes have been specifically altered to target my property. This is when I begin keeping meticulous records of every interaction, unknowingly preparing for the disaster that waits just days away. The manila folder on my dining table grows thicker each week. Inside, organized chronologically, are violation notices printed on increasingly bright colored paper, yellow, orange, neon pink, as if the intensity of their hue might somehow increase compliance. 5 years ago, when the Oak Ridge Estates development expanded to surround my family's 50-acre property on 3 sides, I had reluctantly agreed to join the newly formed HOA. The developer, Maxwell Construction, had assured me that my agricultural exemptions would be honored in writing. "Your property is grandfathered in," the representative had explained as I signed the paperwork. "The HOA rules will only apply to aesthetic aspects visible from common roads." That representative, I later discovered, was Karen Westfield's brother-in-law. Karen herself sits at the head of the HOA board table during monthly meetings, her perfectly highlighted bob haircut never out of place, her manicured nails often pointing accusingly at community members who dare question her authority. She makes no secret of her disdain for my property, repeatedly referring to it as the eyesore farm during official proceedings. "Mr. Johnson," she had said at last month's meeting, "your continued resistance to community standards is disappointing. We are trying to maintain property values for everyone." The unspoken end to that sentence, "so we can eventually force you out," hangs in the air between us during every interaction. The HOA rulebook, originally a reasonable 15 pages, has mysteriously expanded to 47 pages in just 3 years. Each revision contains increasingly specific restrictions that seem tailored to target agricultural properties. Section 8, paragraph 12 now prohibits freestanding signage exceeding 8x11 inches, exactly the size safety regulations require for bull warning notices. I have attempted good faith compliance where reasonable. My mailbox now matches the community standard design, though it cost 4 times what a normal rural mailbox would. The visible portion of my fence line has been painted the approved Oak Ridge cream color. I even attended the mandatory Community Standards Workshop, led by Karen's interior designer friend who charged each household $150 for the privilege. My security cameras tell the true story, however. The footage shows the same white patrol vehicle circling my property 6 times daily, while my neighbors confirm they might see it once weekly on their streets. The cameras catch HOA representatives measuring the height of my grass with rulers and photographing Ferdinand from beyond the fence line. Last Tuesday, a certified letter arrived containing a $2,500 fine for harboring a dangerous animal within community boundaries. When I brought this to the HOA office, pointing out the agricultural exemption in my contract, the clerk simply shrugged and said, "The board has reinterpreted that clause. You can appeal at next month's meeting." During an impromptu conversation at the local coffee shop, my neighbor Richard whispered that his cousin works for the county record's office. "They have already submitted preliminary paperwork for rezoning your land," he told me, glancing nervously around the cafe. "Karen's husband's construction company has plans drawn up for 36 luxury townhomes where your house and bull pasture currently stand." That evening, I install additional security cameras and begin documenting every HOA patrol time, every interaction, every unreasonable demand. I start recording phone calls after providing legal notification that I am doing so. I file formal responses to each violation notice, sending copies to my attorney. The most revealing moment comes during the quarterly community meeting. Standing before the assembled homeowners, I politely raise my concern about patrol vehicles cutting through the bull pasture despite multiple warnings. Karen does not even allow me to finish speaking. Your prehistoric farming practices do not supersede our community standards, she announces to approving nods from her loyal board members. If your animal is indeed so dangerous, perhaps the association should consider legal action to have it removed entirely for community safety. The thinly veiled threat hangs in the air as the meeting moves on to discussing the new requirement for matching garden hose caddies. I return home and add the meeting minutes to my growing evidence file, not yet understanding how crucial this documentation will become. That night, I call Thomas Hayward, my attorney, and ask him to be on standby. Something is coming, I tell him. I can feel it. The morning dawns humid and oppressive, the air heavy with approaching summer storms. Dark clouds roll in from the west, building into towering thunderheads that promise heavy rainfall. Ferdinand paces restlessly along the eastern fence line of his pasture, more agitated than usual. His massive head swings low, then high, nostrils flaring at the changing barometric pressure. Bulls are sensitive to weather shifts, and Ferdinand particularly so. My weather alert app chimes with flash flood warnings for the county. The notification explains why I have spent the early morning hours reinforcing drainage ditches along my property line, rather than responding to the latest violation notice that someone slipped under my door while I slept. The fluorescent green paper declares my drainage system non-compliant with Section 12 guidelines, despite having existed decades before Section 12 was even written. Ferdinand bellows, a deep resonant sound that carries across the property. Through the kitchen window, I notice the unfamiliar red flags the HOA has required me to place along my property line, flapping violently in the strengthening wind. The bull clearly dislikes these new intrusions into his familiar landscape. I make a mental note to remove them after the inspection, despite the potential for additional fines. The first heavy raindrops begin to fall, quickly becoming sheets of water that reduce visibility to mere yards. Through the downpour, I spot headlights approaching, the white HOA patrol vehicle moving slowly along my front drive. This is unusual. Typically, they perform their inspections in fair weather, not during severe storm warnings. The vehicle stops at my gate, and I recognize Karen's nephew at the wheel, clipboard protected by the car's roof as he methodically photographs my drainage work. The timing cannot be coincidental. They have waited for me to be actively working outside to document whatever violation they can manufacture. I throw on a rain jacket and rush outside, the storm soaking me instantly despite the protection. Ferdinand has moved closer to the fence line, watching the unfamiliar vehicle with unusual intensity. His behavior signals are clear to anyone familiar with bull body language: the lowered head, the pawing front hoof, the sideways stance. He is displaying pre-aggressive warning signs. I wave my arms to catch the patrol officer's attention, pointing emphatically toward Ferdinand's pasture. The officer rolls down his window just enough to hear me through the rainfall. "The bull is agitated today because of the storm," I shout over the wind and rain. "Please do not enter the pasture under any circumstances. It is extremely dangerous right now." The young man smirks, raising his camera to take my photograph as I stand drenched in the downpour. "Just documenting your non-regulation drainage modifications, Mr. Johnson," he calls back. "And those warning signs of yours are still in violation. The board has authorized me to document all continuing infractions." "Listen to me," I plead, pointing again toward Ferdinand. I am not concerned about violations right now. That bull weighs nearly 2,000 pounds and he is agitated by the storm and your vehicle. For your safety, please stay out of the pasture today." His response is a dismissive laugh as he deliberately photographs my non-regulation warning signs. The patrol car pulls away from my gate, but instead of departing the property, it turns toward the service road leading to Ferdinand's field. I rush back inside to grab my phone, dialing the HOA emergency number while simultaneously pulling up my security camera app to record what is happening. The call goes to voicemail. I leave an urgent message explicitly warning about the danger, timestamp 10:17 a.m., then text Karen directly with the same warning. The message shows as delivered but not read. Through the rain-streaked window, I watch helplessly as the white patrol vehicle proceeds slowly past the warning signs and into the pasture. Ferdinand has gone still, the most dangerous sign of all. The vehicle stops approximately 100 yards into the field, and the driver exits, camera raised to continue his documentation. The next moments unfold with terrible inevitability. Ferdinand, already on edge from the storm, focuses on the vehicle and the unfamiliar human. From this distance, I can see the precise moment the bull commits to action, the subtle shift of weight to the back legs, the lowering of the massive horned head. I grab my phone again, this time dialing 911. The officer notices too late. His casual stance changes to alert, then alarmed. He retreats toward the vehicle but moves too suddenly. Ferdinand charges, covering the ground between them with shocking speed for an animal his size. The officer barely makes it into the driver's seat, door not fully closed, when Ferdinand's horns connect with the vehicle's passenger side. What follows echoes through the rainfall, the distinctive sound of metal crumpling and glass shattering. From my porch, I witness the aftermath of what I had desperately tried to prevent. The white patrol vehicle lies on its side, hood crumpled, windows shattered. Ferdinand stands triumphantly nearby, pawing at the ground, blood from minor cuts mixing with rain and mud. Inside the vehicle, the officer moves, injured but alive. I run toward them through the downpour, phone still connected to emergency services, heart pounding with the knowledge that everything has now irrevocably changed. Blue and red lights flash across my rain-soaked property, casting eerie shadows through the continuing downpour. Two sheriff vehicles, an ambulance, and a fire truck create a chaotic tableau at the edge of Ferdinand's pasture. The bull has retreated to the far corner of the field, watching the commotion with wary eyes while a veterinarian I called examines him from a safe distance, confirming only minor cuts from the broken glass. The HOA patrol officer, Ryan Westfield, Karen's nephew, escaped with a dislocated shoulder and facial lacerations. The paramedics load him into the ambulance, his complaints audible even through the rain. "That monster should be put down," he shouts as they secure the gurney. "Johnson set this up. He knew exactly what would happen." The patrol vehicle presents a different story. It lies destroyed in a muddy heap, its white paint scratched and dented, windows shattered, hood crumpled where Ferdinand's 2,000-pound frame had rolled it onto its side. The tow truck operator whistles as he surveys the damage. "Never seen a bull do this much damage," he comments, snapping photos for his insurance report. "That is one powerful animal." Before the tow truck has even connected its chains, a black Mercedes SUV races up my driveway, spraying mud in dramatic arcs. Karen Westfield emerges, designer rain boots immediately sinking into the soggy ground as she marches toward me. Her finger points accusingly, her face contorted with a rage that seems almost performative in its intensity. "This is criminal negligence," she shouts, voice pitched to carry to the gathering neighbors who have congregated along my fence line. Your dangerous animal has destroyed association property, and you will pay every cent of the damages plus penalties. We will have that bull destroyed by sunset. The responding sheriff's deputy, a middle-aged man named Officer Daniels according to his nameplate, positions himself between us. Ma'am, I need to take statements before we make any determinations about fault or further actions. Karen continues her tirade, now filming me with her phone while narrating for what I presume are her social media followers. This is what happens when we allow dangerous conditions in our community, she declares into the device. This man has willfully maintained an aggressive animal despite numerous warnings from our association. I remain silent, following my attorney's long-standing advice about situations like this. Instead of engaging, I silently hand Officer Daniels my prepared folder. Inside, protected by plastic sleeves from the rain, are dated photographs of all warning signs clearly posted around Ferdinand's pasture, copies of certified letters sent to the HOA board regarding Ferdinand and the danger of patrol vehicles in his territory, security camera footage screenshots showing previous patrol incursions, and most damning, a printout of this morning's text warnings, with timestamps showing they were delivered before the incident. My phone rings, Thomas Hayward, my attorney, responding to my emergency text sent while waiting for first responders. Do not say another word, he instructs when I answer. I am 20 minutes out. Document everything. Officer Daniels reviews my evidence folder with professional neutrality, occasionally glancing up as Karen continues her performance. When she pauses for breath, he interjects, Ma'am, were you aware of the multiple warnings about entering this pasture? I have documentation here of at least 7 separate communications advising against exactly what your employee did this morning. Karen falters momentarily before recovering. Those warnings were just his attempt to avoid compliance with community standards. Our patrol has easement rights throughout the development. Easement rights do not typically override safety warnings or override dangers, Officer Daniels notes calmly, making notes in his report, especially when those dangers have been explicitly communicated. By afternoon, the rain has stopped, but the damage extends beyond the physical destruction. My email inbox fills with messages from HOA members, some expressing outrage at me, others offering surprising support. The community has quickly divided into factions. The neighborhood message board, usually reserved for lost pet notices and lawn care recommendations, erupts into heated debate. Team Karen, Johnson's dangerous animal should be removed immediately. What if it had been children instead of our patrol officer? Team Reason, maybe don't drive past multiple danger signs into a bull pasture during a thunderstorm. The HOA has been harassing him for months. Thomas arrives as promised, his sedan looking out of place among the emergency vehicles. He reviews the sheriff's preliminary report with the practiced eye of someone who has handled HOA disputes for 20 years. They will file insurance claims against you, he warns. Prepare for a legal battle, but their position is fundamentally weak given your documented warnings and their deliberate disregard. As night falls, Ferdinand returns to grazing peacefully, the day's excitement apparently forgotten. The patrol vehicle has been towed away, leaving only flattened grass and tire ruts as evidence of the confrontation. My security cameras continue their silent vigilance, now supplemented by Thomas's recommendation of additional documentation. The battle lines have been drawn, and as I check my email one final time before bed, the message waiting confirms it. Emergency HOA Board Meeting Agenda. removal of dangerous animal and recovery of damages from Johnson property. The real fight is just beginning. The conference room feels deliberately cold, the thermostat likely adjusted to maximize discomfort for lengthy proceedings. I sit beside Thomas, my attorney, his calm professionalism, a stark contrast to the tension emanating from across the polished table. Karen and 3 HOA board members glare at us, their matching folders emblazoned with the Oak Ridge Estates logo arranged in perfect alignment before them. 2 weeks have passed since Ferdinand's encounter with the patrol vehicle. The initial sheriff's report classified the incident as avoidable and noted the multiple documented warnings ignored by HOA personnel. But Karen has proceeded with legal action regardless. Today marks the first deposition in what promises to be a protracted battle. The court reporter's fingers click steadily on her stenotype machine, creating a rhythmic backdrop to the proceedings. Thomas maintains a relaxed posture that I know is strategic, projecting confidence while Karen's attorney, a young associate from an expensive downtown firm, shuffles papers nervously. "And would you please explain," Thomas asks with precision, "why the patrol route was altered 6 months ago to specifically cut through Mr. Johnson's bull pasture despite documented safety concerns?" His tone suggests mere curiosity rather than the devastating question it actually is. Thomas slides printed GPS logs across the table, records obtained through discovery showing the patrol's increasingly frequent trips through the restricted area, compared with historical routes that had avoided it entirely. Karen shifts uncomfortably, her previously confident demeanor cracking slightly as she confers with her attorney in whispers. Route adjustments are at the discretion of the association to ensure comprehensive coverage. Her attorney finally responds, the weak explanation hanging in the air. Outside these legal proceedings, my daily life has become increasingly difficult. Anonymous notes threatening Ferdinand appear in my mailbox. Bulls get slaughtered every day. Accidents happen. My regular feed deliveries are mysteriously delayed or canceled. The property adjacent to mine suddenly requires drainage work that coincidentally floods my lower pasture after every rainfall. Yet surprising support emerges as well. Mrs. Abernathy, an 83-year-old original resident whose property predates even my family's, approaches me after church one Sunday. "I have something you should see," she whispers, pressing a USB drive into my palm. My bird-watching cameras capture more than just cardinals. The footage reveals 3 board members, including Karen, trespassing on my property at dusk, measuring distances and discussing development potential in explicit terms. "Once we force the sale, we can fit at least 30 units on this section alone," Karen's voice states clearly in the recording. The timestamp shows this occurred 2 months before the harassment campaign began. Thomas submits this evidence during our countersuit deposition. The HOA attorney's face falls visibly upon viewing the footage. A settlement offer arrives the following day, significantly smaller than their initial demands, but still requiring Ferdinand's removal as a community safety measure. "They are getting desperate," Thomas observes as we reject the offer. "Something bigger is at stake here." The watershed moment comes when Thomas uncovers financial records through a connection at the county clerk's office. Karen's husband's construction company has already drafted plans for a luxury subdivision, plans specifically including my property dated months before their harassment campaign began. More damning still are the board meeting minutes from a special session, not announced to general members, revealing discussions about forcing me to sell through aggressive compliance enforcement. These revelations strengthen our legal position but make my community standing even more precarious. Neighbors who once waved friendly greetings now cross to the opposite side of the street. My property suffers minor vandalism. Mailbox knocked over, fence posts loosened, trash dumped along my drive. Ferdinand, blissfully unaware of the conflict centered around him, continues his peaceful existence. I install additional security measures to ensure his safety, including night vision cameras and motion sensors that alert my phone. During a particularly tense day when protesters organized by Karen gather at the community entrance with signs reading, "Safety first, remove the bull," an unexpected ally emerges. The sheriff's deputy who responded to the initial incident stops by, ostensibly for follow-up questions, but actually to offer support. "Not everyone buys their story," he tells me quietly. "Keep documenting everything. Truth has a way of surfacing." As autumn approaches, the legal tide begins shifting in our favor. The HOA's insurance company, reviewing all evidence, sends their own investigators who reach conclusions unfavorable to Karen's narrative. Their attorney requests a meeting with both parties to discuss alternative resolutions. The first indication that their unified front might be cracking under the weight of exposing evidence and mounting legal expenses. The community center buzzes with tense conversation as residents file in for the emergency meeting. Nearly every seat in the large room fills quickly, with latecomers standing along the walls. The room divides itself physically without any formal instruction. Karen's supporters clustered near the front, where she stands reviewing notes with board members. Those sympathetic to my situation gathered at the back where I stand with Thomas, and an uncertain middle group creating a no-man's land between the factions. 6 months have passed since Ferdinand's encounter with the patrol vehicle. The legal proceedings have revealed enough troubling information about board practices that the property management company overseeing Oak Ridge Estates has mandated this community-wide meeting to address governance concerns and pending litigation. I clutch my prepared statement, heart pounding despite Thomas's reassurances. Public speaking has never been my strength, and the hostile stares from Karen's camp do nothing to calm my nerves. The room falls silent as Karen calls the meeting to order with practiced authority, her voice amplified by the microphone system. "Thank you all for coming to this important meeting," she begins, her tone suggesting this is merely a procedural formality rather than the reckoning it represents. "As you know, we face an unprecedented situation involving dangerous conditions maintained by a community member who refuses to adapt to suburban standards of safety and aesthetics." Her presentation portrays me as a dangerous holdout refusing to embrace community standards, deliberately endangering others with my aggressive animal and outdated farming practices. The damaged patrol car appears in dramatic photographs on the projection screen, carefully cropped to exclude warning signs. The injured patrol officer, her nephew, though she never mentions this relationship, provides a recorded statement about his traumatic experience and ongoing physical therapy. When my turn comes, I approach the podium slowly, placing my statement on the wooden surface. Rather than focusing on Ferdinand or the specific incident as everyone expects, I speak about community values and transparency. Oak Ridge Estates was built around existing properties like mine, I begin, my voice steadier than I feel. The developers promised in writing that agricultural exemptions would be honored, that rural and suburban could coexist with mutual respect. I have documentation showing how that promise was systematically undermined by certain board members with financial interests in acquiring my land for development. Murmurs ripple through the audience. I continue, outlining the pattern of targeted harassment, selective enforcement, and deliberate endangerment that led to the patrol car incident. I avoid accusatory language, letting the facts speak for themselves, and conclude by expressing my desire for reasonable coexistence rather than endless conflict. As I finish, the room remains silent for several uncomfortable seconds. Then, near the back, Mrs. Abernathy rises shakily to her feet, her 83 years commanding instant respect from even Karen's most devoted supporters. "I have lived here since before there were paved roads," she begins, her voice fragile but determined. "I have watched this community grow from farmland to what it is today, and in all those years I have never witnessed such deliberate persecution of a neighbor as I have seen directed at Mr. Johnson." She describes witnessing board members on my property after hours, measuring and discussing development plans. Others follow her lead, the Jensen family revealing their financial hardship from arbitrary fines after refusing to sell their corner lot to Karen's husband's company. The Thompsons presenting evidence of selective enforcement against properties targeted for acquisition. Even the former HOA landscaper describing being instructed to focus maintenance efforts on certain properties, while neglecting others to create artificial disparities. The meeting descends into controlled chaos as previously silent grievances surface one after another. Community members who had feared speaking out alone find courage in numbers. Through the growing commotion, I notice board members whispering urgently to Karen, whose face has drained of color as the carefully constructed narrative collapses. The management company representative, until now a silent observer, approaches the microphone. In light of these serious allegations, supported by documentation provided to our office, we recommend an immediate vote regarding current board leadership. The vote of no confidence passes by a substantial margin. Karen and two board members walk out before the final tally is announced, their expressions a mixture of rage and disbelief. An interim board is appointed from community volunteers, with explicit instructions to review all pending legal matters and enforcement actions for potential impropriety. As people file out, many stop to shake my hand or offer support that was previously expressed only in private. The tide has turned decisively, though the final resolution remains uncertain. Morning sunlight glints off the new sign at my property entrance. The professionally designed marker reads, "Ferdinand's Crossing, Protected Agricultural Heritage Site," with the official seals of both the County Agricultural Commission and the Reformed Oak Ridge Estates Homeowners Association beneath the text. 6 months have passed since the emergency meeting that exposed the corruption at the heart of our community leadership. The legal aftermath unfolded with surprising speed once the full extent of improprieties came to light. Karen and 3 board members resigned facing potential legal charges for misappropriation of HOA funds and conspiracy to depress property values. The property management company, fearing liability, cooperated fully with investigations that revealed kickback schemes involving selective enforcement against properties desired for development. The court settlement exceeded even Thomas's optimistic predictions. Not only were all claims against me dismissed, but the HOA insurance was required to cover the damaged patrol vehicle without any contribution from me. Most significantly, the settlement mandated creation of protected status for the 5 remaining agricultural properties within the development, with binding covenants preventing future boards from attempting similar harassment campaigns. Ferdinand, once portrayed as a dangerous menace, has become an unlikely celebrity in our community. Children draw pictures of him for art class. Local news featured him in a segment about rural heritage preservation. His massive but gentle presence has become a symbol of resistance against corporate overreach and corruption. The new community board, elected in a record turnout special election, approaches governance with transparency and inclusion that feels revolutionary after years of Karen's regime. Their first official act was approving my proposal for monthly Rural Heritage Days, where neighborhood children learn about responsible animal husbandry and sustainable farming practices. These events regularly draw over 100 participants, creating connections between suburban families and agricultural traditions many had never experienced. Even more surprising is the community-funded observation platform constructed at the safe edge of Ferdinand's pasture. The sturdy wooden structure includes educational panels about bull behavior and farm history, and families regularly gather there on weekends to watch Ferdinand grazing peacefully. The bull seems to enjoy the attention, often approaching the viewing area when visitors arrive, though always with the safety barrier between them. The irony is not lost on anyone that the warning signs, now properly acknowledged and respected, remain in place, though supplemented with educational information about bull behavior and safety. School groups visit regularly, learning about responsible animal handling and rural life. Ferdinand serves as the perfect ambassador, his impressive size and gentle demeanor when not threatened offering living proof that power does not necessitate aggression. At the quarterly association meeting, I find myself in the unfamiliar position of helping draft balanced regulations that respect both rural traditions and suburban needs. The atmosphere has transformed from combative to collaborative, with genuine discussion replacing dictatorial pronouncements. Property values have actually increased since the reforms, contradicting Karen's insistence that agricultural properties were detrimental to the community's worth. Karen and her husband moved away shortly after the settlement, their development plans abandoned. The construction company filed for bankruptcy protection following investigations into their business practices. Their house sold quickly, purchased by a young family who specifically mentioned the community's blended rural-suburban character as a selling point. The wounds of division heal gradually as transparency and genuine community interest replace power-hungry oversight. Former antagonists now greet each other at community events. The neighborhood message board features exchanges of gardening advice rather than bitter accusations. As I watch Ferdinand grazing peacefully from my porch, his massive form silhouetted against the setting sun, I reflect on how this magnificent animal became the catalyst for community transformation. His stubborn resistance to intimidation mirrored my own refusal to be bullied off land that had been in my family for generations. Together, we inspired others to stand against abuse of power, exposing injustice that had affected many beyond just ourselves. The new patrol vehicle, a more modest and practical model than its predecessor, now follows strictly defined routes that respect property boundaries and safety warnings. The driver, a retired sheriff's deputy hired for his community policing experience, often stops to chat about Ferdinand's well-being when he sees me working near the fence line. "That bull of yours changed everything around here," he commented recently. "Funny how sometimes it takes a bull in a china shop to show which dishes were already cracked." I could not have said it better myself.